The Bring a Trailer Podcast.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Bring a Trailer Podcast. Alex Porter coming to you from our headquarters in San Francisco, joined once again by Beck. Hey, buddy.
Hey, Alex. How you doing, buddy?
Always good to have you on the pod. And we've actually, I didn't tell you this. I told you Mike the Dentist. Shout out to Mike the Dentist, who was just here with his recent BAT auction win. But what I didn't tell you is our friend Kim Barnes from Michelin also loves a Beck episode.
Really?
So you've got multiple fans.
Two people. I got two fans. Fantastic. I just had lunch with my buddy Ian. You'll love the name drop because he listens to everything.
Love Ian.
And he also says he only listens when I'm on it.
That means he's definitely not an Alex fan. So that's
he's a big Alex fan. But we also similarly we ended lunch. We ended at the front door of the office, and I go inside. He goes, "By the way, I have notes."
Oh God, of course. Yeah. As I was telling you, Mike does a great Alex intro impersonation.
That's a podcast idea too.
What's that?
The competitive Alex impersonation.
God, dude, I have to crawl under a rock. That's like my worst nightmare. So before we dive into some of the topics we've got, I thought we could give folks a preview of what we wanted to chat about. We're going to kind of do a state of the affairs. We haven't done one of these in quite some time, I don't think. We've had a lot of guests recently. We've played some games, but we haven't really talked about, what we're watching, what's been an exciting result. I know you've got an interesting topic for us to discuss too, but I thought we could start up top by diving into 206 Dino results, because we've had two recently, one of which you were involved in, and then one of which just slightly eked it out, but I think both are world records, right?
Yes. So not too long ago, just in January, we had Prancinghorse. He's a user on the site. He had the Datsun collection a couple years ago.
A repeat white glove seller.
White glove seller. Great guy. His is sort of in partial retirement, and his hobby is finding great cars and bringing them to Bring a Trailer. And one of them was this, I forget the exact color blue, azure metallic blue.
Beautiful car.
Beautiful car.
But a 206 Dino, which means
206.
Knockoff wheels, smaller motor. It's kind of the original version of the Dino, right?
Very good pull. Yes, exactly. It's essentially the origin, if you will, of the Dino branding as far as I think the general public is concerned.
The 246, the much more well-known car.
Correct.
And do you remember there's only about 500 206s, something like that?
154.
Oh gosh, even way less than
built in that year and a half of production.
Yeah.
So very few, and it's also just similar to like other cars like 911s and Jaguar E-types. It's before a lot of small changes that I think people preferred maybe in the 90s and 2000s that recently people started to prefer not having those changes.
Once the car gets to a certain age, people want the original version of it, even if it's inferior. I think maybe an analog would be the Periscopo Countach, right?
Another one would be, I think you were just talking with Maurice about this yesterday, was 2002s.
Right.
He had a square tail, I had a square tail. He and I talked for like half an hour downstairs, and I'm amazed we never hit 2002s at one point. But that's another one where if what you can afford is kind of the dumpier version, if you will. And then once you get into that world, you start realizing, actually the one that matters is
the OG.
TI,
yes, correct.
That sort of thing. And so that's what this was. The 206 GT. We had this metallic blue one Prancinghorse had on the site. Reserve was strong. It was high, but he's got a great sales history. He's got great demeanor in the comments, so I'd sort of let him.
Car was already in Cavallino, right? Or what was the story?
Yeah, so it had already been accepted to Cavallino, and it was this whole thing like, well, I'll deliver it to you in Florida if you want to. Like, it was a whole thing. He's very experienced in this space, and it sold for $1 million, and that was shocking. You and I were in the airport heading to Scottsdale.
Oh, that's right. And then it was not the talk of Scottsdale, but there was talk of it there.
Like record-breaking, 206 that's selling on the site. And then cuts to last month, late in March, only a week and a half ago, a gold example sells for $1,001,000.
$1,000.
So minimum bid increment over.
Also a 206 Dino.
Also 206.
Sold by another kind of mark expert, the folks up at Silver Arrow.
Yep.
Tim Quaxister was in Arizona. I believe maybe we were even talking to him about the blue car. I can't remember.
We may have definitely 300 SL that he was driving,
which is now live. Which
and
talk about later.
Oh
yeah.
Nice.
Oh, dude.
Didn't see it finally came onto the site.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's right.
I don't think that was their intent initially.
But we can talk about that in a little bit.
But yes, pretty shocking to see something get re-upped, because whenever you see that kind of result, it's actually, as of someone who deals with negotiating reserve prices on a daily basis, it can be rather frustrating when a car hits that high of a mark, because then everyone wants that.
Now everyone thinks that's what a 206 Dino's worth.
Correct.
Yeah.
Now, granted, those cars have been appreciating for quite some time now, several years, and I think they probably even have some room
We had
to
some
grow.
700K results. We haven't listed that. There aren't that many of them, but we've had some big results.
And you can still get them for under 500. They just haven't been restored because their values were so down, like a lot of these cars for so long. But crucial differential between these two offerings was Silver Arrow offered theirs at no reserve.
Oh, interesting.
Now, that's going to be a 0.1% difference, right? Maybe without it being no reserve, it wouldn't have even crushed that higher number. That's obviously, I don't know, maybe the blue cars selling convinced them. I don't know. It'd be interesting to ask them, like, what gave them the cojones to go ahead and actually do it at no reserve. But I'm sure that was one of the many factors that caused this car to achieve what it did, which was pretty shocking. I'm
happy to take both of them, put it right up there next to each other, $1,000 difference on those two cars. But does that make it twice as hard to negotiate with the next?
Completely. Right. Exactly. I mean, what's nice is both these.
Clearly, it's been affirmed that these are $1 million cars.
Every single one of them, right? Hopefully, what helps is
they're both really good examples, really good colors too.
Great colors, great documentation, which
great
is
sellers,
all of that. They all both know how to work in the comments and everything.
Totally. What else has been strong? I mean, I have a bunch of strong results here, but any notable white glove results or anything you've been paying attention to in particular, Beck?
I was out last week along with you, so I did not catch
Palm Springs, baby.
Palm Springs, fantastic time there. We lucked out on weather, man. It was
my God, it was gorgeous.
It was high 60s, low 70s.
We should talk Palm Springs car culture, but let's talk results first.
So I missed out on sort of where those were landing. But you were mentioning the Singer before.
Yep.
Where did that end up going?
Over $1 million, which is great for folks who are kind of worried about where things are market-wise. Kind of an interesting build, solid green color, Fuchs replica wheels. I guess, no, they're not. You can't call them real Fuchs. It's terrible to say something's a replica on a Singer. Yeah, they're Fuchs style. There we go. Replica is too derogatory for a Singer, I think. But $1.025 million, great result. Beautiful car. I was really happy to see that.
Great green. Really call that forest green? Or is that
there's a color that's similar on modern cars called, is it oak green, I think? And maybe, I'm not sure if that's a retro color or not, but it has a similar look to it. But sometimes for my taste, Singers are a little overdone. So seeing an understated one, I love that.
And Singer in the news, I believe today, they're one of the investors in Willow Springs.
No kidding. The track finally got sold.
It got sold.
No kidding.
It's Singer and
did they say, was there a number? Did they hit a number?
They didn't say a number. I don't have that good connections. They are planning on helping develop it they plan on it being still very public and publicly accessible, but they're definitely doing some more
houses and
high-end experiences and club membership.
Have you been there before?
I've never been there.
Okay. Oh, yeah. No,
but you
race there. Yeah. And it's close to where I grew up. So I think the first race I ever saw when I was a kid was like a Porsche club, some kind of PCA race that my dad took me out to probably when I was 10 or 11. I think the reason they were able to film Fords's Ferrari out there is it looks the same. I mean, like the facilities are,
yes, not changed.
Yes, they're ancient. But to me, that's part of the charm, right? Because it feels like an old track.
But it's only like that because it's so remote.
Yeah.
And correct me if I'm wrong, there's no grandstands.
No.
There's nothing. You're not going to watch. No one's going to watch.
There are multiple tracks, right? There's the big track, and then there's the streets, which more people. I've driven on both. The big track is a little scary. Fastest track in the West is the name of it. Yeah.
Banked turns.
Kind of. The turn 8 and 9. It's only 9 turn track. I think I'm remembering that right. But 8 and 9, which lead into the front straight, are kind of the same corner. So 8, you come off the back straight, and even when you're a slow car like I was in, you're charging pretty good into 8, which is a decreasing radius right-hander that kind of then turns into turn 9, which is onto the front straight. So complex, hard to get right. And if you F it up, you've lost all your front straight speed. And it's where I had my worst off. It's interesting. I think there may be some banking in 1 or 2. I can't remember. Both of them are kind of on the side of a hill. Right? There's a flat part and then they go up a hill.
Really is, right? Yep. Aren't you climbing?
Both of them are like that. Okay. Yeah. And they're kind of right next to each other. And then I believe since I went there, maybe there was a dirt track back in the day, but they do that drifting school too there. I can't remember the name of it, but there's like another area where it's like a big kind of skid pad area.
I was just on Google Maps this morning trying to really figure out like how far is Willow Springs? I've always known it being like 4 or 5 hours away or whatever it might be. And if you look at the satellite pictures, it's like very clear. Oh, that's where they did the drifting because it's just a black
100%.
tarmac.
It's Rosamond, baby. So it's like halfway between Lancaster and Mojave on the 14. It's close to LA, right? Like much closer than...
Makes sense for Singer.
Totally. And much closer than the track where I did most of my track time when I was younger, which is Button Willow, which is also relatively close to LA, but you have to go over the Grapevine, and it's in the Central Valley west of Bakersfield.
I drove past it on the way back from Palm Springs.
It's right there. You would never notice it, but it's right there. You can watch the cars going around the track. That's right where you go, where the 5 goes under the big power lines, right there. Lerdo Highway, Lerdo. Anyway, I'm stoked to hear that. It's a great track, a great property. I hope they keep some of the old school charm, though.
They say that, there's going to have to be some modernization.
Of course, it needs that.
That's what Singer is, right?
Right.
But at the same time, Singer clearly understands the marketing aspect towards the heritage. And so I would imagine that they're not going to be an investor on something that they can't also milk that as well. And part of that is, I think, making it still somewhat available to the public.
Yeah.
But like you said, it's still remote. It's in the desert.
Yeah.
So,
any other notable names involved that you heard? This was a news release?
It was just this morning. It was on a couple of the car blogs. And
cool.
It's an investment company that I don't know of. But thankfully, it's not like a hedge fund that's just looking to pump and dump.
Great.
Place. So that's good.
Killer.
It's remote enough that if they're going to develop it into something else, it's just going to be like solar farms. Like it's not going to be like homes or residential.
Right next to it, there is I was always fascinated with this. It's been 15 years or more since I've been on it, maybe 20. There is a fly-in community right next to it.
Oh.
So it's only about a mile down the road as you drive out from the 14 out towards the track. There's, like 80s, 90s tract homes, and behind them, there's the big hangar.
Sure.
If you look on Google Earth, you'll see it. It's right there, just about a mile east of the track. It's on the same side of the road as the track. And there's quite a few homes, maybe like 50 or more. And it's been there for as long as I was going out there. So it's been there for a long time. And then a little bit north of there, there's another like homebrew fly-in community that one of my dad's friends lived at. So there's all kinds of dirt strips out there. In fact, my old Cessna 170 was sitting on a dirt strip out by Mojave.
Want to talk about some live items, or do you have other results you want to
Well, we're talking news. Is it too
sure.
janky to pivot to your Leno law stuff since we're talking news and developments? I think we should talk about that. I'm kind of excited to hear what you have to say. Why don't you lay out the basics
Well,
first?
This is something that both Alex and I are literally personally involved with because we have cars that will be affected by this, as with a lot of Californians. But there's a State Bill 712, which technically it's now been officially renamed Leno's Law after Jay Leno.
Love that.
And he showed up a couple days ago at the Capitol in a 76 Trans Am, which was, I think, probably the perfect car to demonstrate, this car is...
Amazing car, important, well-known, and never going to pass smog.
Southern California
but has to,
heritage to it.
Yep.
So it's one that we don't want to lose, that these cars are either just leaving the state or more likely they're just not being registered here. And then
so the state's losing the fees because you can't, the issue is that they can't pass smog, but anything after 75 has to pass smog testing in California.
Correct. Both visual and sniff test as well, which are both of those are equally difficult.
These are carbureted cars. My 912E, which is a 76, God help me, had, what were they called? Thermal reactors. Pre-cat.
Pre-cat conversions. You'll see this on BAT auctions, any car that's in the mid 70s, especially European sports cars, that it always ends up in the comments going towards, will this pass California smog? And it's because...
By the way, our staff was talking about how excited they are this morning.
Really?
We have to go so deep with sellers of California cars because it's incumbent on a private party seller to smog the car for the buyer.
Within 3 months.
Right. So if you've got, honestly, dude, you know this, it affects cars all the way up to the 90s. My NSX, it was hard to get it to pass smog.
Yeah, we've lamented about this, but I've tried to take my 78 911 into a smog shop before, and they've literally just said no.
Oh, totally.
They just don't want to deal with it. I think a lot of it is that they don't know even what the parts look like. So they don't know what an EGR valve looks like. They can't point it out.
Air pumps and all kinds of...
Exactly. Yeah. So as of right now, or actually even to backpedal a little bit more, it used to be a 25-year rolling law.
Because I think emissions was 68
was the first year of any kind of emissions control, both in the state level, but also that meant that pretty much any North American car company was having some sort of emission systems on it. Many states jumped on this as well, like Colorado had it, Washington had it as well. A lot of those states...
And for, to be fair to them, for actual problems.
For real problems in LA, right?
Yeah, I grew up in LA in the 80s and 90s. It was horrible. Yeah, the smog was horrible.
So then in 68, as you got 25 years later, the restrictions on that would come off over and over. This is also why you see a lot of changeover in cars availability in the year of 68, right? So there's no 911S in 68.
And some people still have outdated information on BAT covers. Have you ever seen that? Somebody's like, oh, it's a 69 and doesn't have the smog equipment. It's like, no, that one's okay.
Or it's really what it is a year later, they figured it out.
Correct.
They figured out how to get the car to pass smog without it, whatever reason. So the 911S came back still as a 2-liter in 69. But that 25-year ban, I believe it was Schwarzenegger who actually enshrined it as no longer
stopped rolling.
Stopped rolling. It was basically at 76, which was at that point, it was 25 years after 76, basically said, nope, this is just going on forever now. 76 and later has to, which is obviously a tough moment because we're not really at electronic fuel injection.
Which carbs, my beloved 308 GTB that I want so badly, one of the main things holding me back is they've got 4 carburetors in 1977. That car has to pass smog.
The big change was 81 because there was an O2 sensor requirement. And that's what changed everything. Now that you made it a closed loop system on the fuel injection, or even if it wasn't fuel injected, that helped so much just because the system now knows what it should be doing. And frankly, that should have been added a long time before.
Of course.
But State Bill 712 is going to change it from being 76 and later to be back to a rolling characteristic, but it'll be 35 years, which would jump that up to 1990.
NSX owners still have to worry. At least for a couple of years.
For a couple of years. But that's the exciting part of it, though, right? It would be like 90s cars is that you could sort of know, well, at least I can, in a year or two, I can get it, whatever it might be. There was a provision that's been, I believe, since dropped that you were going to have it insured as a classic car. That way, I guess there's some sort of incentive for the insurance companies to limit the number of miles you do.
Which they do, right?
Right.
So, which almost all these cars are. No one's daily driving an 80s car pretty much anymore, right? These are all collector cars.
One of the data points they were trying to argue in favor of passing this law was that less than 1% of cars registered in California are older than 1990. However, I think a far better statistic, I don't know how you'd find it, would be what percentage of miles driven in California.
You and I barely drive.
Less than 0.1%.
Yeah, totally.
Oh, dude, I just did that math when I picked up my car recently. I was looking at, because I keep a spreadsheet of all my service history and all that. And it's been 8,000 miles in 8 years. So 1,000 miles a year. That's not too bad, I guess.
So one of our colleagues, Chris, the producer of this podcast, I don't want to misquote him here, but I believe he told me that in Washington State, also a very green state, they eliminated emissions testing altogether because they determined, to your point, a very limited number of miles.
Crucially different also for Washington State was that I believe all of their inspection sites were state-owned.
Oh, interesting. So there was a huge amount of
clear
bureaucratic, all this red tape.
Versus here, it's this weird hybrid of, it's technically private companies, but they have to give like the star certification from the state, which is like, that's a weird controlling thing. But they have some weird incentive.
And if you eliminate it, you affect those people's livelihood too. Which
in theory, yes. But, so few of them are doing that type of smog test anymore. They're just doing the type where they
plug in. Right. Even my 05 Porsche is just, you just plug it in.
So
OBD2, I think.
It passed one of the first early stages of one of the committees. It's now going to Appropriations Committee in the Senate. It will still eventually, I believe, have to go to a full floor vote. But supposedly it has bipartisan support, which in the state of California, you can't get anything done unless it's
got to help that Leno's out there lobbying for. Good for him. Can you imagine the plaudits he's going to get from the car community if he can get this passed?
Well, we've had these moments before. There was a big push a couple of years ago to move it from 76 to 81.
I remember
that would be the whole O2
and then it got
sensor.
killed,
And he got killed as well. I think having the branding of him, who's, I think, probably your old guard of bipartisan celebrity.
100% he well. Walk into any room and make anybody laugh. That's his philosophy, which I love.
One of his jokes for a long time was, it used to be people would tell me like, oh, I love you, you're so funny. And then it turned into, oh, my parents love you, you're so funny. And now it's, oh, it's my grandparents love you, they think you're so funny.
Good for him. Well, I'm excited about it. I think everyone's excited about it. I'm completely in favor of cars not making the world worse than they should be. And I don't think that cars of this vintage are hurting things too badly. So let's hope. Let's hope this passes. Is there a time frame on it?
No, I mean, it's like any of these state bills. I think we're lucky if it gets settled within the next year, probably.
Well, you and I will jump for joy with our old Porsches. Amazing. Okay, now we can pivot. Thank you for doing that. Thank you for reporting on that. That's important cutting edge journalism from Beck. I'd seen a picture of Leno at the state capitol, so I was excited to talk about that. But we should dive back into site results because I kind of cut us off there. There's a lot of other ones that I wanted to mention. Any other notable white glove or things that you had your eye on that you wanted to bring up?
I mean, it's not a car, but it's something that I feel like I have to bring up because Howard was so excited about it. The Dairy Queen sign.
Oh, totally.
A Dairy Queen sign offered by McKenna, which is a BMW dealership down in Los Angeles. The McKenna collection by the McKenna family has a bunch of cars. We've listed them through White Glove before, and they're doing some redesign of their collection facility. And so previously was their original Volkswagen sign that was enormous. It was all individual letters. And then we just had this Dairy Queen porcelain neon sign.
Yeah, it's got the double, because the sign people like porcelain or neon, but this is both.
This is both. It's all one piece. It's got the big ice cream cone at the end.
It's huge.
Oh,
we'll link to it.
I think it's 20 feet wide or so.
I love this kind of stuff. I would love a
how you
Foster's
get this
Free
home.
sign, any of these things, right, from this era. Did you ever eat a Dairy Queen?
No, I don't think I have.
Did you ever eat a Foster's Freeze?
No.
How about an A&W?
Yes.
Okay. Oh,
there
you
used to
have
be an
that
A&W in Marin.
Oh, yeah, I remember that, right?
I think actually it's still there.
It was right across from the big Frank Lloyd Wright County building, wasn't it?
Yes,
Yes, that's right. Yeah, okay. I love all of them. And this one's got the big ice cream cone on it. It's wonderful.
There was a Dairy Queen franchise owner in the comments.
Oh, no kid,
Who
not
was-
related to the sign itself?
Not really, and he was like bidding on it. He was like, "I want this for my headquarters."
Of course.
Right? That's like the
course.
best result for I think one of these
Totally.
things.
I love it when that kind of stuff happens.
Yeah, sold for 21 grand, which is quite
Amazing.
amazing.
Another one that I thought to bring up is, did you see the Toyota Eagle All-American Racing car?
I did, yes.
That car is so cool. Anything associated with Dan Gurney is like thumbs up by me. I was in here with Maurice 2 days ago talking about Dan Gurney. We can't help talking about it. And then I just read the new Road and Track too, and they also had a whole thing about the Gurney flap, the little lip on the back of spoilers. We all love Dan Gurney. This car is a 1990 IMSA GTP prototype car. Super cool. 1.4 mil on the result. Pretty wild, although a sick car.
Very sick car, great history, great manufacturer history as well with Gurney and Shelby. Just sort of the heritage of that is pretty tough to beat.
Plus a Canapa restoration.
This is, again, I guess maybe I just see these results and I get some anxiety because I've had GTP cars get submitted before, and it's your classic issue of, one can be worth 1.4 million and one can be worth 0.4 million.
But to your point, this has all the connections,
Correct.
right?
And phenomenal livery.
I bet you and I have seen that, because Canapa brings out, various Toyota racers from that era, right? We've seen a lot of these at the stores. There's that real crazy Celica too, that's all wide body and everything. It's from this same era, and I think was also built by All-American racers. But this car in particular, real low slug, that rear 3/4 image where it's just flat on the ground. I mean, we'll put a link to this one, but such a cool car.
It's a phenomenal era of these race cars that in theory they should be appreciated more and more, as similarly street cars have. The only thing I think going against them is they have like nothing to do with street cars at this point.
Totally. I mean, it is a Turbo 4, and I've seen either this car or cars similar to it racing, and they have great, blow-off valve noises. They sound cool going around the track, but it's not quite the same as like a big, Cosworth V8, but they do sound awesome and they fly. So there, I guess, is a little bit of adjacent technology there in that, in 1990, turbocharged 4-cylinders were not super common, but they, of course, have become super common in cars. But other than that, hard to draw a straight line to street cars.
Wasn't that sort of the GTP algorithm was meant to take some base core part of a street car, but then allow essentially
Correct.
a prototype everything else around it?
Correct.
That's like the Ford Probe.
Yeah.
GTP was developed. They have nothing to do with the street car other than say like the block.
But you could still, at least in my opinion, it's harder for me to connect a modern Formula One car to any piece of technology that's in a street car. But back then you could still say like, we're making turbos, but you're still doing something to push automotive technology forward that could, in theory, help a street car down the road. I mean, the fact that essentially everything is turbocharged now, it must have been helpful that racing teams were developing and making turbos better for decades before they became a common street thing.
The only thing I'll disagree on modern Formula One is that I would say the caveat is yet, right? Like it's technology that's in it right now.
Very true.
It's going to percolate. There's some elements of it will, if we still have street ICE engines in some capacity, which I think we still will, there will be some sort of
DRS on your M3.
Well, there is one, right?
Is there
the
some
new
street car
GT3 RS?
It has.
Yeah.
Oh,
the 992 GT3 RS has a DRS system.
Well, if only we were all daily driving GT3 RSs, that would be super relevant.
And the GTS has the electric motor on the turbocharger.
Is that out? Can you buy that now? You and I talked about that on
I don't
a
think it's
previous
been
podcast.
delivered yet.
Okay. So that was a cool one. We had a wild result on a fixed headlight NSX with a supercharger, 370 grand. I saw that. That was yesterday.
What do you feel about supercharged NSXs?
I've never driven one. So my car, I think, was fine on horsepower. It wasn't lightning fast, but it was plenty of power for me, but a lot of people say a supercharger on them is fantastic because the engine maintains a lot of its characteristics, but you can have 400 horsepower, right? I think a lot of people would say it's better than a turbo, right? Which would change the characteristics of the engine.
370?
I told you, dude.
370 grand. Now, what do you think this would...
I need to look at the details. One of the other things, and I think this was true of early Miatas too, some of those, I think it was comp techs, were CARB legal. So that's another thing that was very desirable. We're talking about smog testing. You could have and I think for Miatas, it was Jackson Racing. They were approved by the California Air Resources Board. So you could actually pass smog with the supercharger. I don't know if this one has a comp tech.
This is, so 9,000 miles is low on an NSX.
And it's a fixed headlight.
Wait, are those?
Oh, it is a comp tech. See, it's a comp tech. So that's probably why.
That must be it. But still, at 9,000 mile, wouldn't you think that this car without a supercharger does better than this because it's not modified? Or
listen,
do you think
dude, this is why I brought it up. It's fascinating, right? It's a really clean one.
It was very, very clean.
Yeah.
Is that like engine bracing in the engine bay?
Zach did that to his as well. He said the Targas really benefit from having that extra bracing. As you know, the early ones are fixed, and then later they're all Targas, or pretty much all Targas, not the Zanardi and not the Type R. Anyway,
for some of us, Targas is the only way we fit in the car. So
that's very true. Chris and I were talking about 77 Targas today, and he was like, "Are those lame?" And I'm like, "No, man, they're good. They're good." Polished Targa bar is key.
Polished
for
Targa bar,
911s.
very key. That's standard in 77, 78, and then it switches over to all black, and that's when it goes downhill.
I agree. Even though I've softened on all Targas. I used to be so anti-Targa, but not anymore. Should we do a little watch list comparison?
Sure, let's do it.
I was thinking of even like you making me give you your computer and I'd give you mine, but we could just run through them. How many do you have live right now on your watch list? I have 5.
I have, 5. Wow, I have 16.
Oh my God. You're more of a follower than
I was stunned when Randy said he only had 15 watch. I guess I just have I have a lot of things where I'm also just curious, not so much about the car individually, but about what its result will be. And so I'm just for information for reserve negotiations. So I watch a lot of things that I'm not necessarily totally proud of, but it's just to see.
Oh, because you're thinking about those kinds of cars when they come into white glove.
I want the data point in my head.
Yeah, totally. That's smart. And I bet the curators do the same thing. For me, it's just pure passion. You're not going to be surprised at all. But what's my watch list?
Well, I've narrowed it down to 4 that I'm like, these are the ones that I'm excited about.
Why don't you start?
Cool. So to keep on the Carroll Shelby theme from before, the race car replicas GT40 Mk1.
Oh,
so good.
I've been on that listing many times, though it's not on my watch list. It's got a really good livery on it.
It's got a great livery.
It's like plain white with like a red nose or
red and black stripes.
Yeah.
I think it does a great job of balancing.
It really looks like the real thing. Yeah.
Like the real race car, but it looks like it's more drivable, full aluminum. It's great, beautiful photos of the fabrication of the chassis.
It's a metal body.
Yeah, metal body with an aluminum tub frame.
Right-hand drive or left-hand drive?
This one is left-hand drive.
Okay.
So
that's how I always judge a GT40, how hardcore they are. Do they go right-hand drive? And if they do they still go sill shifter?
I was going to say, exactly. Yes. Do they switch over the shifter all the way to side? As opposed to it would have been a sill shifter drive on the right-hand side.
That's a nut bag thing, and that's how I've walked my GT40. Like a right-hand drive with sill shifter.
Right-hand side.
Because you're still right-hand shifting.
Yes, exactly. For sure.
That car looks so good, though.
It looks so good. It's actually very enjoyable to look at these cars and really start to appreciate how good a job they did on the Ford GT from 04 to 06, and how accurate it was, but it was still its own thing. You kind of have to look closely sometimes to be like, what am I actually looking at here?
The first gen Ford GT it's just one of the best. One of the best. At our LA event, which went fantastically, thanks to anyone who's listening who came out 2 weekends ago, a father-son combo came up in first and second gen Ford GT, both yellow, black stripes. We parked them right up front at Wobb's facility. So sick.
That's amazing.
So great.
That's my first one. I think this thing is phenomenal. I think it would be quite an incredible car to take on a rally. I don't know if you'd ever want to do it like that, but
no, I think it would be great for it.
Yeah.
Another Gurney connection there because Gurney won in the Mark IV, which we had a real Mark IV, though rebodied recently. Yes. And then, of course, famously the Gurney bubble, because he was your height. I think he's 6'3", 6'2", something like that. Well, and had to have a little bump on
for his helmet to fit in there. Yep. I think about that in most cars that I get into is what would it take to get my own...
You need a Gurney bubble on your Targa roof. So
no, that fixes you just take the roof off.
Yeah, totally. Of course. Hit me with a couple more because mine are going to be you're going to be like, of course, Alex.
Okay. I mean, it's always good when it starts with a car color in the title.
Oh, yes. When we put the color in the headline.
Yeah. Zinc Yellow, 1996 Ford Escort RS Cosworth.
Also not on my watch list, but every time that car comes across the top of the website, it's so good.
It's so freaking good. I love the
biplane spoiler, those OZ wheels.
You're right. The only thing that it's tough to say Sierra over later Cosworth. I'm sure this one is probably faster and better in probably every single way, but these look like your classic little boy racer.
Totally.
And just look like you're going to get in trouble.
Why do you think I like Mustang SVOs so much? It's a lot of those same elements, it's that same kind of era.
It looks like a backwards baseball cap, just asking to get in trouble.
Have you liked those before, or is it the color on this one that drew you?
Oh, no. You've always liked them? I've been into fast Fords for quite some time. A Sierra Cosworth is definitely on my list of someday, but seeing that this was on the site, I got still very excited on it. It's got the right wheels on it.
What about a Mercure or XR4 TIs?
I don't think I can do it.
It's too down market for you.
A little too down market. But these look fantastic. I'm not the type of person who gets excited about the name of colors, but I love Zinc Yellow.
Oh, totally.
I love it. It's a mechanical thing that we've all dealt with. If you've ever replated bolts or whatever, like what this is, what they're referencing. And then you look at the car and you're like, yep, that's
It's also really good photography for that.
Very, very good. This is the Patina Group, who I don't know well.
Oh, they're great. Patrick is wonderful. Shout out to Patrick if he's listening. I don't think I'm blowing up their spot. They are either about to become or did just become local partners.
Oh, nice.
He's been around. He's been selling for a long time, and they do such a nice job on their presentations. And like all of our local partners, a person who's just really aligned with our values, doing things right, not screwing people over, being truthful about the car, all that kind of stuff.
If you like turbo noises, you've got to get to the Patina Group's driving video for this listing.
I haven't watched that.
It is the full...
just
every single time. It's wonderful.
Yeah. Now we're 2 for 2 on cool 80s turbocharged cars. All right, we'll go down mine really quick because you're going to be like, of course. So here they are in order. Supercharged 1937 Cord 812 Phantom. Of course. We've had quite a few. We've had 2 really good results on Cord Phantoms.
Yellow?
We've had 3 yellow ones in a row. Yeah. Although I think the other 2 were not supercharged. This one's supercharged. Phantom is the 4-seat convertible. What we've sold very few of, or listed very few of, maybe none, is the Sportsman, which is the 2-seat convertible Cord, which is the most desirable. But I, of course, love the sedans because that's the original design. I think the prettiest. But I watch all the Cords. We've been crushing with them. Anthony Serra has a Euro 78 308 GTV, so you're not going to be surprised by
brown?
that. No, it's red. But yeah, the Euro cars have the dry sump motor that everyone likes. It's only a little more power, but everyone says it's a much better driving experience.
Sure.
Got to get one of those cars. The Silver Arrow Rudge wheel, gray red, Gullwing that we saw in Arizona. Beautiful car. I hope I'm not blowing up Tim's spot. He was driving it everywhere and leaving it open for people to take over, so I don't think this is going to bother him. There was a young kid, a teenager, who was like poking into it. Tim had left the doors open at our Arizona event, and he was talking to his buddy, and I just kind of slid in there and sat on the thing, and I showed him how the steering wheel folds up for you to get in. He was like, oh, that's so cool. So I touched that car a little bit when it was there, but it's got the luggage in it. It's gray Rudge is ready. It's about as good as a Gullwing gets, I think.
When Randy's 300 SL was here in the office years ago, very briefly, because it came out of the shop, and then they were listing it on the site for a big push. We all sort of took turns. We did a little lunch and learn.
Yep, that's right.
Around 300 SLs, and then we sort of took turns getting in there, seated, and
Did you actually climb in?
I climbed in.
Were you able to get in?
I was not able to fully get in comfortably at all. And as Randy opened the door for me, as I get out, he says, I think you're a Roadster man.
Yes. That's right. Honestly, I drove that car a little bit. I could barely fit in it myself.
Really?
Because I have a long torso, even though I'm not nearly as tall as you.
So Italian cars work well for you then?
I drive inherently in the Italian driving position. Knees bent, arms straight, leaning back. That's like how I most comfortably fit in a car. That's how I drove the NSX. That's how I drive the Porsche, which is weird. Most people don't like that, but that is how I drive. Very quickly to round things out, another one you won't be surprised for is a beautiful 65 S600 Honda Roadster. Another car, I got to get one of those at some point. Beautiful presentation, really nice one. The guy's owned it for 37 years. So really cool, red axles.
S600, is that still chain drive?
That's still the chain drive swing axles. Mike Malamud's museum, one more shout out to our LA event. Huge thanks to Mike, who did such an amazing job. Dude, I wish he'd been there. So crowded. It was definitely our biggest event ever. But he's got, as I think you know, a bunch of cool historic, Japanese cars. Original Sylvia, Toyota 2000 GT, my favorite, Sports 800 Toyota. But he had both a Roadster and a Coupe. I can't remember if the Roadster was 600 or 800. The Coupe was an 800. And I climbed underneath because Randy didn't believe me that the last ones had solid rear end, which is actually what I would like because it reduces the complication. But it's hard to deny if you've got the money and time that the chain drive swing axles is such cool technology. This one has them.
That's such a wild thing that was even considered for a while.
9,000 RPM too, you know,
it's
in the 60s.
Open chain, right? Like it's not.
No, they're enclosed. So they're like, they look like two little suitcases. So it looks like a solid rear end. It's right up behind the driver and passenger, and then coming off the end of it are these two little swing arms which have an enclosed chain in it. It's really cool. I mean, there's nothing else like it as far as I know.
Oh, for sure.
And then lastly, this is maybe the only wild card, although it won't surprise you. This is from Tom Papadopoulos, Racer 355. We have a very beautiful 52 Allard J2X with a firepower Hemi in it.
Wow.
I know. I love Allards.
That's not his typical car, is it?
He sells a lot of stuff like that. Remember, he had the Clark Gable XK120.
Okay.
He sells 50s cars. I'm not sure he's ever had an Allard before, but I love Allards.
Sure.
I probably made you look at one in the pits at Monterey and talked about how it's
like
40 Ford front
British
axle
car,
cut in half for the independent. Yeah. Zora Arcus Duntov worked on them. We had, remember that really beautiful green one that had a flathead with Ardun heads on it with the Zora Arcus Duntov overhead valve conversion on it. That was a couple months ago. Anyway, those are my 5 that I'm watching. No surprises there for you, I'm sure.
Those are all great.
Anything else you want to mention?
Other watched cars, the last one I'll sort of plug because I just love these, and this will be no surprise as well, is we have possibly one of the best, if not the best we've ever had, 74 2002 turbos.
Oh, I saw it go past. I didn't click on it. It had very nice photos. It's kind of a low angle with the chin spoiler up front.
Yep.
It's a good one.
Very nice photos. Super clean. It's been restored. Came from Europe. This is basically about as good as it gets, I think, but it is a phenomenal example. It's got the very crucially important reverse text turbo 2002 on the chin spoiler. That is a must, so that when you are being essentially advanced upon from the rear, you are then seen in your rear view mirror turbo 2002. The story I had heard was that eventually the German government forced them to stop doing that because they thought it was like too aggressive for the road or something like that.
This one's like perfect, dude.
Fantastic.
Oh, man. Silver. You silver or white on these?
Oddly enough, I'd actually think I'd go white.
Yeah, okay, I would too. Shout out to your colleague, Sam, who's got a beautiful white one.
He does.
Man, this one's like almost too nice to drive.
I know,
look at this thing. Holy crap. Is it a 5 or a 4? They came in both ways, 5 and 4-speed, right? This one's a 4-speed. Isn't there?
5-speed was optional, as was a limited slip diff on these cars and also on all 2002s and TIIs and all of that. Original 5-speeds are very rare.
Right.
I think it's actually, for turbos, it's probably far more common that people clicked that box.
I thought I'd heard, I don't want to swear to this because I can't remember if it's true or not, but that the 5-speed was maybe not, not quite up to the task. The 4-speed is a dead reliable box that was in a bunch of things.
It is a dog leg,
which
is the advantage of the original 5-speed. If you do an E21 5-speed drop-in, you're obviously getting the conventional H pattern.
Right.
But with a dog leg on a turbo where you want to keep it, in the revs all the time, I feel like that would make a lot more sense. As far as weaknesses are concerned, it's possible that maybe they're not necessarily as robust. Similar to the argument why the 930s had 4 speeds for so long.
Yeah.
But for this one, I don't know, man. I wouldn't need it. This is fantastic.
No. You almost want to just look at this car. Really, really good one, Beck. I'm glad you brought that one up. Before we part ways, I thought maybe we could spend a little bit of time talking about Palm Springs car culture, because you and I were both down there. We had our families down there for spring break, and it's beautiful weather, like you said.
It was fantastic.
And I saw so many rad cars. Did you catch a lot of interesting things out on the street?
So we lucked out at, not only was it Palm Springs car culture, it was Palm Springs car culture in the right time of year where it was not too hot. And
it was like 72 degrees and
every
sunny.
day. It was just easy. And the common theme I saw was how beloved the R107 is.
Oh my God, I saw so many. And I also saw, are they still R1? What was the Coupe? I saw quite a few of the Coupes too.
Oh, the SLC.
SLC. Is that, that's a C107 maybe, I think is what that is. Yeah, okay. Yes, so many of them. And it appeared to be a collection of people who had them forever and are just but also clearly younger people who bought them recently as like a collector car.
I mean, that's obviously one thing that you do whenever you see a car like that, is you gotta be like, well, who's driving this car? Right. I want to see this. And this is the case for, I had this actually with 2002s when I used to own one. Was some of the best ones I ever saw looked like they were with their original owner.
That's one of my favorite things when you see. You almost never see that anymore. Somebody in like a 70s car where they've clearly been daily driving it for 50 years.
They're also clearly not hustling it, because to them, it's not necessarily, like, they're an enthusiast, obviously, because they've maintained this, kept it around. but they're not doing it as an homage or as not even a joke, but like appreciating the history. They're doing it because this is their car and they like everything about it. R107s were just everywhere. And I figure it's got to have the right balance of modern amenities, really actually working AC.
Yep.
But then also it looks classic. It looks historical. It's not W113-ish, but
I saw a couple Pagodas. Did you see any? I saw a couple down
I
there.
think I saw one as well. But I feel like you could, though, at least see an R107 in that context and feel like, oh, they're in that same vein.
It's not my favorite car in the world, and that's the perfect place for it.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
Because you can put the top down, and boy, is it nice to have the top down on a warm evening.
The
or like a
likelihood
warm
that you
morning.
need to drive kids around while you're in your
Totally.
classic car in Palm Springs is low. If you just need to shuttle around.
And automatic is nice there too.
Sure. And everything is 15 minutes away at most.
Yes.
Right.
All the roads are straight.
all
Speed
roads
limits
straight,
are 45 miles an hour everywhere,
everywhere.
which I definitely utilized. Man, I love it down there. I saw not a ton of 129s. I saw a lot of R230s. It's just like an SL country down
It is
there.
absolutely SL country.
I like you, I like classic 911s, but I saw a lot of like modern, people get the specced out Targa S there.
991 Targa 4S
Totally.
was everywhere.
And I was also like, yes. Like
Yes.
my whole view shifted when I was down there on what kind of car I would want, right?
Sure.
Because again, everything's straight, it's relaxing, it's warm. You want something that you can at least have a panoramic sunroof on, if not totally put the top down.
You want the ability to drive to dinner with the top up because the AC's on, and then when you leave dinner, the top is down.
Dude, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
That's what the R107 is.
After a couple of cocktails, put the top down, enjoy that warm. Oh man, I love it down there, obviously.
Yep.
How did the kids feel afterwards? My kids love it.
Oh, they genuinely loved it.
Yeah.
Will's asking, like, is this our house now? Is this where we
Totally.
live?
Oh, totally. Enzo calls it Palm Strings, and he's still talking about Palm Strings. Are we not going back to Palm Strings? Totally. It's the same kind of thing. Why don't we live here?
Right.
Right.
Our kids played together in the pool.
We all had them in the pool. Yep.
That was fantastic. The issue that made it work well was that it was unseasonably cool.
Yes.
I mean, I just checked on my phone today, but I was like, what's it like in Palm Springs today? And it was hitting 90
It was like
degrees.
plus 15.
Yeah.
Although for me, I love a 100-degree day there. My wife, less so, but I'm fine with it. One other thing that I was going to mention, the other car that always comes to mind when I'm down there is the big 60s, 70s American land yachts.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw quite a few of those around, and particularly caddies, big Cadillac convertibles, or even big Cadillac coupes from the 70s. Just makes so much sense out there and looks so fantastic. And I think I would probably have to get one if I lived out there all the time.
That's the land of also just the Continental, right?
Oh, 100%.
Suicide Door Continental.
Yes.
To be able to take you and you're double dating, going out to a restaurant.
Triple dating, probably.
Absolutely would be the car for that area.
Yeah, man, I love it out there. Well, it was really fun hanging with you and your family.
Absolutely phenomenal time. Saw you 2 days after. I had cannonballed back up with the kids, and we were longing for Palm Springs.
Well, thanks for doing this, Beck. Any other topics you want to cover before we end?
Give a shout out to Florida event.
Oh, yes.
up.
Great tease a couple. We should have done this up top.
That one's coming up. Where is it happening? What time?
Jupiter, Florida. It's
Love
happening
that.
with our partner, K2 Motorsports.
April 19th.
That's coming up.
Saturday.
Yeah, it'll just be when this comes out, it'll just be a couple days from when this podcast happens. So got that. We've got Quail Motorcycle Gathering happening again in May.
It won't rain.
Buddy, cross your fingers. Tyler Greenblatt, our colleague, is not even going to laugh at that. So that is in May. So we got that coming up. We sponsored that the last few years, and as Beck insinuated there, it rained the last 2 times. People still had a ball. They've actually changed the timing on it a little bit to try to avoid that this year. And then June, we're doing Portland at 911R's facility, our local partner and power seller on the site, 911R.
Have we ever been in Oregon before?
We did do one a couple of years ago, but we've done 1 or even 2 events at 911R's facility down in Arizona where you and
Sure,
I just
yes.
were, which is so lovely. But this is the original Avant-Garde facility
B place.
in Portland. And so that should be awesome. That's in June. And then the biggie is going to be in July at Road America. We're going to have a ton of staffers out there. That's going to be a really
That's
big
the actual
blowout.
alumni gathering.
Yeah, so we've really switched to this kind of meetup format where it's a little bit lighter on the ground. LA was interesting because there might have been 1,000 cars there and we had nobody parking or anything. It was like, figure it out on your own. And there were definitely some grumblings. And guess what? Everyone figured it out just fine. And it was an amazing car show. But yeah, been a little bit lighter on the ground. And we're really trying to emphasize working with our local partners because, it's kind of a double win. We get to go hang out with somebody that we're partnering with who we really like. And they often, as you know very well, have rad facilities themselves.
I think also important is that a lot of our staffers will have to parachute in for this event. And then when it's over, we leave. And if local people have come to that show and they want to make a connection with like, now I want to sell my car, here's a local place you can now go to. It's not like we've just disappeared.
I wish you were there to see Rob Dietz, Wob Cars, his shop. It was unbelievable. 910, he had 910 there, F40, a bunch of amazing stuff, including that.
The Bring a Trailer podcast.
BAC Mono that just sold today for 200 and some large number.
230, I want to say.
Yeah, something like that. Anyway, I'm glad you brought that up, Beck, because we wanted to shout out all of those things. So anyways, thanks for doing this so much, as always. And thanks to all of you for listening. If you made it this far, please don't ever hesitate to reach out with questions, concerns, feedback. That can go to podcast@bringatrailer.com. Thanks for listening. We'll catch you next time.
Bye, everyone.